Welcome to the Diversity Connector podcast, where we explore the rich tapestry of human experiences. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the country on which we meet today. I would also like to pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging, and together as we dive into conversations that bridge cultures, challenge stereotypes, and celebrate the unique perspectives each of us brings to the table. Each episode is a journey through stories and insights from a kaleidoscope of voices, each sharing their colorful narrative. Whether you're at home, on the go, or just anywhere in between, you're now part of a community that values understanding, inclusivity, and the beauty of diversity. So plug in your headphones, get comfortable, and let's connect through the power of our shared stories. Welcome, and thank you for joining us on the Diversity Connector podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Diversity Connector. This is Gertrude Mache here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. And today I am graced with the presence of yet another fascinating guest. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our tribe. Please tell everybody your full name, where you're based, and share your story with us today.
Hi everyone at Diversity Connect. My name is Vikram Shetty and I'm based out of Mumbai, India, but my business is in London, UK. And as a trade, I'm professionally a software developer, which means I've been building systems for last 20 years. But 10 years back, which means a decade ago, there was a happy accident that happened. I ventured out into becoming an entrepreneur or starting my own business. And I ended up starting working with 73-bit, which within a year we acquired and now been running successfully for last more than a decade now. And while we were working on a software product, our all of our clients were related to responsible business, and DEI or diversity, inclusion, and equity was an integral part of our clientele, and more than 40% of our client ended up in that space. So I say it as an happy accident because I didn't choose DEI, DEI chose me. And in particular, I found an ikigai of overlapping of my personal passion with the company and the work that we are doing, which is of course workplace culture. I was not so like while I was working in corporate, I had faced a lot of challenges while working on a culture because it was very aggressive and more sense of a capitalistic approach, which is how the world works. But I felt like innovation, collaboration, and creativity foster around a very good workplace culture. I've been always wanting my company to have a good culture and been thriving for it for since a long time. And the work of diversity or DEI in particular predominantly is more about people and how people can drive the change, and they bring leadership in and make a positive impact not only for the company but for the planet and overall society, in return to make profit behind it. So I am kind of in a very intersection of diversity business, and that is where I thrive, and that's what I've tried to focus on. You via our software product, which is helping our clients who are primarily diversity or DEI consultants, doing assessment, benchmark, diagnostic, audits, evaluations, and sorts. So that's a short introduction of mine.
So let's talk a little bit about understanding DEI as an investment. How do you define the return on investment when it comes to DEI, to diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives?
That is a very fascinating question, and that is the primary. question that I am solving with the help of my clients and the community here. So whenever the DEI, let's speak about a problem, at least at the current climate. DEI has a lot of backlash. There is a lot of pushback. There are budget cuts and there are challenges among, especially in the corporate world, especially in the Western world. And if you look into it, the business case of DEI has been not spoken if it's not a recent phenomena. There has been 30 years or more of an academic research already there. Data is out in open, and I will pick one of the famous report which speaks about the business case, which is McKinsey's report. And the people in the business side, they're finding one thing difficult is the causation of diversity into the profit or the revenue side of the growth of the company. They understand it's the right thing to do, but they are finding it difficult to map it to their P&L and L and show how the numbers add up. Okay, that is the primary challenges. On the other side, the diversity or DEI community have no challenge in that. They understand it is a long term game and there is an impact because it's a service business. You end up adding all the people that you have in the organization, their well being adds up to a new innovative product, their relationship with the customer, expansion of the target audience. So but both parties don't agree on few of the things, and we are trying to solve the actual ROI of DEI, which is how to put the number behind all the work that the DEI consultants or the initiative that is driven by DEI brings into picture. Now, one of the areas which is straightforward, there are four other areas as well. I won't go into much deep into it. I've written a whole white paper on it. But the one area which most of the people agree is with the employees or the talent that work in many of the industry. It's mostly people driven. It's a service based in most cases, especially in the knowledge work. It's people who drive the business. So I will pick on three popular metrics, which is employee engagement, productivity, and attracting good talent. Okay, so employee engagement is how you can measure. So one thing you can measure is the how the employee engagement is current, and put and diversity initiative, what is the improvement in the employee engagement. There has been enough study to prove that if the employee feel engaged, if they start building trust and cooperation between each other, the team already produces a better output than the team who doesn't have a good trust and cooperation. This has been done with an intensive study by Google, and it has been backed by a couple of other studies, so you can go and look it up. Again, there is no direct causation to it, but it's lead and the lag metrics that you can play with that works for it. So basically, you can see how the employee engagement scores goes up and see if that impacts your overall business outcome. So that is just one of the many ways you can measure the ROI of DEI.
Fantastic. Now, looking at quantifying DEI impact, what are the key metrics or indicators that organizations should track to measure the ROI of their DEI programs?
Again, a fantastic question, and this particular question will require a specific answer. Like the classic consultant answer is it's depend. That is where uh, I, in the framework, no, don't talk about any particular metric. I've used the employee engagement and metric around employee in my white paper, and I talk about it as an example. But here is where I kind of flip the whole conversation. My framework that I've shared in my white paper, which is three-part framework. You start with the business metric in place, then you go up to three DI metrics, and then you end up with an one ROI metric. So here is how it works, and here is what my proposal to all the DI consultant out there. Instead of trying to figure it out in your head, what metrics would be good, or what are the best practices in the industries, and what are the best practices written by any given study, you talk to your client, and you talk to your, in this case it will be a prospect, and ask them which are, or which area of their business they are currently focused on, and which metric they want to move. And if in case of employee, I will again bring up the same example for the continuity. So if you ask that your prospect these three metrics, do you want to improve your employee engagement, do you want to improve the employee productivity, or attracting talent, now, based on their answer for these three metrics, and there is a very specific reason to only pick few. So, because if you have too many options to pick, there is an analysis paralysis that happens, and you don't have too much time in the first conversation. You want to kind of hit the zone right, and that depends upon your background study, or pretty much you understand how, where the company or the business is going. And once they pick one metric out of it, you do a reverse engineering and pick the top three or the most impactful DI metrics that would be related to the business metric that they have chosen. I'll give you an example. In case if they choose employee engagement as the metric, you could ask something like, what is your current participation percentage of their employee engagement survey? Now here we are asking a meta metric. It's not the actual metric, it's number of people who are even participating, which shows that the percentage based on which how engaging their employee, how seriously they take that employee survey, how many skip them, how many needs a reminder, and so on and so forth. That will go in detail, but you just first ask them how, what is the percentage. If the person don't know it, that again is an indicator of where they stand currently. A second
Mhm.
metric that you could ask is, do you have any feedback process in place based on the employee survey that they fill in? So if they have or they don't have, you understand their current process, and you understand what process or the what the level of engagement is there. And a third metric you could ask is, what is the growth you are expecting in employee satisfaction survey? Here you are asking for a lag metric, which basically calculates the satisfaction survey, and what point improvement you are looking for. So this could be top three, but this is my example. You are the expert as a DI consultant. You can pick the most prominent and popular one, which is
Mhm.
again engaged with the business metric. That's very important key. You start with where they are, and then you meet in the middle, and at the end you kind of demonstrate an ROI metric, where you will say, for example, a system usage of a system that you create for DI, and the system usage per employee versus the participation increase in the next round of employment engagement survey. So that
Mhm.
could be an example of it.
Now, without data, you don't have much to go by, and there are challenges in measurement.
Right.
What are some of the common challenges that organizations face when trying to quantify the ROI of DEI efforts, and how can these be overcome?
Right. So earlier, now in today's day and world, the raw data is not such a challenge, because we live in uh, a overwhelming overdose of data world. So there is data allwhere. I think the gap is making meaning between what data we already have, and where the business focus is, and how to connect the dots so that it can be converted or explained better to the decision maker. I think the gap is there. So for example, let me go back to the framework again. If they say their employment satisfaction score is 10, is 5 out of 10, or 7 out of 10, what does it actually mean to the business is missing? So the DI consultants are very good at creating the framework, doing the scoring methodology, making and bringing in the score, and in order to bring it back to the revenue or profit or any business tangible, which need not to be a tangible metric, but even if it is an intangible metric,
mm,
then to communicate it back to the uh, business and actually add a pound or a dollar amount back to it is, I think, one of the gaps that is very prominent, because there are very few who are ready to put their neck out and say
mm,
that if this is the number that moves, these are the uh, profits or these are the revenue metrics that will move. Now I can understand that it would be very difficult to give an absolute number to it, but
mm,
then where is comes your confidence percentage on it? So you don't need to have a 1 point number to share. You can have a range x to y, so minimum to maximum. A
mm,
classic example is to replace a talent. It takes some studies says it takes 1 year of their salary to make them productive again. Some studies says it takes 2 years of their salary to replace. Now, instead of getting into the argument if study X is right or study Y is right, you can always give a range that it has been proved that 1 year salary and 2 year salary it takes to replace a particular candidate. Now, if you
mm,
can find an inception point of the range and if you start measuring in the context of that company while you are implementing your DEI initiative and kind of tag it back to all the insights or the moment where the person didn't choose to leave the company because of a better work culture or because they find it more inclusive or more belonging, that each trigger point, be it a feedback call or some kind of thing where which DI consultant may have to figure it out and or may have to discover which is already there and then tie it back to the number, and then maybe periodically demonstrate it to the decision maker, the return that is been made due to this initiative. There is also
okay.
a reverse way to measure it. Sorry for the long answer, but there is a delta way to measure it. The risk side can also be measured. That means the
Mhm,
number of money lost due to any legal actions, or the number of money lost due to lost customers, or number of money lost due to the target market which was never tapped, and so on and so forth. So you can always do different variation of plus and minuses and demonstrate in a quarterly report that you present to the business leaders.
okay. So, how do you balance the financial ROI with the cultural and social impact of DEI initiatives within a company?
Right. So that is a really very no, there is no direct answer to it. In other words, it's very difficult to scientifically prove that, because if you speak with the CFO, they will have a counter argument to that. But the approach that I recommend to many of them is the language of investment. So like any investment in the business, the two prominent one is the marketing investment and innovation investment, which happens in any business as usual, that how you do it. So if for example, if you have to pull out a billboard advertisement or a digital marketing social media advertisement, there is no way any marketer, even the best marketer, cannot put a dollar amount on the return on investment of the ad that goes out. Some ad
Mm,
blows up and they make all the money, but some ad tanks and they sometimes even lose the money, even
yeah.
backlashes where they have to withdraw that. But nobody asks a marketing agency or the marketing team to kind of put the exact numbers of return on their ad, but they
Mm,
have indicating or a vanity metrics in some cases, but some cases of indicative numbers like number of views, number of impressions, or those site. And in case of innovation, they have like number of touch points or number of activation points or number of referrals, all those indicator which doesn't guarantee a number back to the business, but it is a good leading indicator saying that there is something promising there. The rate at which it is growing is very nice, and there is a possibility,
Mm.
because if this rate it grows, it will hit some tipping point, and from there it will grow. So
Okay.
similarly, in case of DEI, one study or one area of work which is very prominent and people are seeing a lot of result is inclusive leadership. So if you go from a top down approach, pick your top 10 I would say innovators or inclination towards DEI, who understand the concept, who get behind the idea not as a troublemaker, but they would truly believe that if you invest in people, you will make more profit. As
Yeah.
simple as that. And if they can kind of develop their contextual based metrics, which is already been worked and tested in the main market, and they might kind of develop something which either attracting new market or reducing the cost drastically, or innovating in product, innovation in service, innovation in customer satisfaction,
Mm.
based purely on the DI initiative, or at least 50% or 40% DI initiative. Because DI is an horizontal function, it's not a vertical function like a software. Like a
Yeah.
software is an horizontal function. I put my software out there, it is easy for collecting data. For example, the DI assessment, it collects the data, and on a click of a button, the report comes up. As you rightly mentioned, how will you show the measurement? It will be a one page measurement showing the rank, the numbers, the scores, the money saved, three recommendation based on the input. We can all map it up. So at every given instant, even while we are sleeping, it is collecting leads in the background. There is
Mm.
nothing stopping that, but because it is a function of a particular uh, talent or a skill. But DI is an horizontal, it cut across all departments.
Yes.
It has exponential growth, and it has, and you can check for all the companies which have good company culture, and you can see how
Mm.
their numbers are doing. That's the argument in most DI numbers are. So that's how would be my recommendation: to go top down, invest on inclusive leadership, help the team develop these metrics on their own, which is
Yeah.
not trying to push it on them, but they own it, they back it, and then you team up with them to the decision makers in terms of finance, which are CFOs, CEOs, COOs, and kind of work as a collaboration and determine that, okay, we agree in these numbers and we have measured it multiple times, and this is
Mm.
the outcome it is bringing.
So, can you share an example of a company that has successfully demonstrated a high ROI for its DEI initiatives? And what are the key factors that contributed to this success?
Right. So there are many out there, and of course, this is where when you speak with good DI consultant, they share this experience. So there is one company in UK. They are into beauty and cosmetics, and they enrolled heavily about, I think, a decade back into ERG groups. And one of their group where it was people of color and African people. And what they discovered is none of their products were applicable to this group because of their cultural background, because of the texture of their hair, and because it doesn't work. It's a complete different way in which they take care of their at least their hair products. And
Mhm.
because of that, these ERG groups helped the R&D group and the innovation group to create a new complete product line which cater to only the people of color. And last I heard was, it was now, I think, in giving back 20% of the overall revenue of that beauty product that they have. So this is one example that is been I've listened to this often, and it's been talked about the most.
Okay, that's actually quite fascinating. Now, how does investment in DEI impact employee retention and engagement? And what is the correlation between DEI efforts and the reduced turnover costs?
Oh, this one is a very big one, and this is something that you can work with an existing data, and also you can measure it. I think within a quarter or a 6 months,
Mm-hmm.
how this thing works or not. So so a more direct approach would be to figure out if the underrepresented group in your workplace, how they feel in terms of being inclusive or being belonging into the workplace or not. So that
Mm-hmm.
they you might already have an employee engagement survey which you can pull up all your historic data and you can do a dissection. That's where I'm telling the data is already there. You might have to do a little bit of in-depth analysis to figure out what are the scores for the underrepresented one. And in this particular case, you can do a proactive one where you can uh, a very simple way to do. I mean, this I'm suggesting this because you don't need any system or any investment to do this upfront.
Mm-hmm.
Is every time underrepresented, quote unquote, whatever your definition is, and of course there is a lot of debate, and you might have to hire a DA expert to just categorize that with your existing data and start conducting your exit interviews to underrepresented group, specifically from a DEI point of view, or the questions that you would ask for not for everyone but specifically for this group. And you don't have to have a lot of questions. You can have a 10 standard questions, a 30-minute interview with them. And as soon as you start collecting this data for a quarter, you will start all the insights that is actually not right in your organization for this group will automatically unearth. You will start seeing a pattern, and you can focus basically an 80-20 principle. You can focus on the top 20 percentage of the problem, which like solves 80% of their things, so that it will stop them to leave. And
Mm-hmm.
that's, I mean, that is also, you can even ask at the end of that exit interview, if if only one of this problem that you shared, if we solve that, that would have made you not leave, what would that be? And if that you ask such question, they will only, because they are leaving the company, they have nothing to hide, so they
Yeah.
will tell you upfront what is there and what is not there. They are mostly vocal. You might not like to listen to this, but
Mm-hmm.
you do this, and then you make the leadership listen to few of the common patterns, and
Right.
that alone would give you the feed of making this uh, improvement into it. So basically it will be a completely employee driven. uh, if you want to go a step ahead, and you have to, I always love to add the money or the number at the end of it in the exit interview. One is this question, and the other question would be, what would be one change that you think that uh, you being a category, or because you are underrepresenting a certain thing, what
Mm-hmm.
would you bring in? Like, you don't specify that, but you are directly ask them, like, what would be one change that you would bring to the company that would improve the growth of the company by 10% overall? And
Okay.
the ideas they suggest, you can kind of distill it. Normally, a couple of things already working, and then you can later focus all your energy on fixing that top 20% problem and map it to that 10% growth, and you kind of
Right.
build on top of that, and you have something very contextual and practical. You don't need, I
Mm.
mean, this would work.
Really good strategies here. Right. So my last question for you is looking at future trends.
Right.
What emerging trends in DEI are likely to offer the highest return on investment for companies in the next 5 to 10 years?
Wow. That one is a curveball for me. I'm not sure if I'm the right person to answer that particular thing, but this is based on the I've spoken to hundreds of people in this space and I've seen this recurring term. I think the one of the future that I can put my money on if I am investing in companies' growth would be a strategic intersection of existing talent and their skill set based on in-house or internal assessment or psychometric test and those kind of things, and
Right.
placing them into a position where they would kind of play on their best strength, which means that uh, they would shine like 10x or 100x. I'll give you an example, and that is
Mm-hmm.
where it will hit. For example, uh, in terms of neurodiversity, which is nobody like
Okay.
in the diversity community, everyone's talking about the business. I'm not sure how many are talking about. But if you
Yeah.
see an autistic person, they are wired differently, in which especially you mentioned that you will create a promotional shots from the video. An
Yes.
autistic person has an natural talent to see which a non-divergent person would never do that. So
Mm-hmm.
they are perfect for placing on cutting these shots on the visual side of anything, and they
Yes.
would kind of emphasize on the key things that either connects with the audience or trigger the audience or make them change. Now this you
Okay.
don't have to do only on the marketing side, but if you have a learning and development in house and you have on demand training, then you can
Yes.
design your whole training not like a boring 100-page PDF for people to read, or a long boring video sessions which is very technical, but you can
Yes.
make it a little bit of fun or a more interactive, and the focus can be on learning. So they can be so empowering that each number can multiply on top of it, so which means you can not only spread to more customer base because of your shots went viral, or
Right.
your learning or onboarding or productivity of an employee is cut by one fourth. So someone is taking 1 month to get on board and start becoming productive, that can happen in 1 week in a
Yeah.
particular segment. Definitely there will be strategies to play around with it. So that would be my best bet. So basically I think the conversation will eventually move out of DEI as a cost center to the company to be a
Mm-hmm.
strategic investment to the company, and people
Yes.
who will be able to leverage it. Of course, there are AI already here, so they can leverage
Yeah.
it using multiple ways and kind of quadruple the knowledge work productivity of people. And most of the business people are the integral part of any business to thrive.
Fantastic. Vikram, thank you so much for this interview. It's been absolutely fascinating diving into your world and learning more from you. What is the best way for people to connect with you, and what kind of support are you giving organizations in this field?
Right. I think the best way to connect is to go to 73bit.com/ROI, and you will
Mhm.
find my white paper. You will download it, and everything will be chopped out. In the end of it, I also invite people to have a call with me, and if I need to have a working session with them, they can help you with that. So it is
Yeah.
73bit.com/ROI. So
Uh-huh.
that is where people can find out. And apart from that, of course, if you have any DI assessment audit that needs to connect data, apply some into your own proprietary scoring methodology, and then you
Yes.
have to publish a self-assessment report or a benchmark or anything of that sort. We are a software company. We help people with doing that.
Thank you so much, Vikram. It's been an absolute honor having you on the show. And thank you to everybody who's tuned in today. The Diversity Connector is a platform that brings you the stories and voices of people from all over the world. We share these stories to uplift you, inspire you, but bring you the experts and the tools that you can use to take you from where you are now to where you want to go with your DEI initiatives. So tune in again tomorrow when I interview yet another amazing guest. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world. And Vikram, thanks again for the interview.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much for having me.
Bye for now, everybody.
Bye bye.
That's a wrap, everybody, on today's episode of the Diversity Connector podcast. Thank you for tuning in and being part of our vibrant and global conversation. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and it's been an honor to share this space with you, where voices from all walks of life come together to weave a tapestry of diverse perspectives. Remember, every story you've heard today is a thread in the larger fabric of our shared humanity. So, as you step back into your world, carry these stories with you and let them inspire you to embrace and celebrate the rich diversity around us. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast to help us share these inspiring stories with more listeners. Do follow us on social media by looking for the Diversity Connector podcast for more updates. Until then, keep connecting, keep listening, and keep celebrating the beauty of diversity. This is the Diversity Connector podcast signing off. Stay curious, stay open, and definitely stay